Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about idols and idol worship. And we're going to start obviously in the book of Exodus, chapter 20. Okay? We're going to the 10 commandments, right? And starting at verse 4. You do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous all, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children, to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands. Right? So, from the beginning, he was like, do not make carved images. Do not make graven images of anything that you think is in heaven, that you see on the earth, or anything that is below the earth. Did they listen? Of course not. Absolutely not. And even today, there's still idol worship, right? Think of the biggest one, you know, in within Catholicism, which is also Christianity, you have the huge statues over in Rome, or a huge statue of the person who they deem to be Jesus. That is who they worship. They made Jesus an idol. They made Mary an idol to worship, right? And even to this day, Christians worship Jesus. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that you're supposed to worship Jesus, but that's a whole nother topic. But we're just talking about idols, okay? So they worship Jesus, they worship Mary, right? That's who they worship, not the Father, right? They worship the creation and not the creator, right? And so I'm just like, that's interesting, and I think about all the things that we have made idols. And I'm going to specifically be talking about the children of Yasharal because the idols have been given to us. The idols were given to us and they put them in your face and you don't realize it, right? So let's point out some idols, right? Major figures in history, specifically Black history, right? In school, when it's Black History Month, who do they talk about every single year in school? And I was a teacher, okay? I was a teacher. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, George Washington Carver, right? Those people, the ones who were civil rights leaders and helped to create equality, and they created all of these things, and those are the people who they gave to us as idols. Like, hey, look at all these Negroes who did these great things. Who put them in those positions to be the idol for us? Hmm? Think about that, right? And so when we think of quote unquote powerful or major figures in the Black community, people hold those major figures on a pedestal. You're like, oh, this person did this for our hair, and this person did this for our skin, and this person did this so we can have the same rights or the same pay and all this, that, and other. But what the Yahweh would tell us that we are not to be like the other nations. We are not to do as the other nations do. Did we listen? No. We don't ever listen. Okay? Some major figures, right? And in going along the lines of major figures, we have like celebrities, rap artists, R&B artists, actors, actresses, musicians, um, athletes, all of them idolize them, especially children. A lot of these celebrities are geared towards children, idolizing them, so that when they grow up, they aspire to be like these people, right? People wanted to be like Michael Jordan. They wanted to be like Allen Iverson, right? Want to be like Mike Tyson. All these different athletes as children, especially little boys, they want to grow up to be them. And then for little girls, Beyonce. No. Mm-mm. No. Cardi B, Rihanna, or somebody else in some other kind of career. They put these people in these positions for little black children, right? The little children of Yasharal to grow up to want to be like them. But when you think about when you think about it as an adult, you see how cruel and messed up it is. But as a child, you're just like, oh, this person is doing all these amazing things. They're rich, they're famous, they have all the cars, the clothes, the money, the houses, the women, the men, the private jets, the yachts, and all those types of things. They live these lavish lifestyles. Little children idolize those people, and they idolize the things that those people have. But the thing is, these people that they're idolizing are painting a false picture, because in reality, they don't even live their lives that way. The way they portray it on television, what is seen to the world on television or on social media, that is just a picture, right? To make other people want and lust after that person and their lifestyle makes them an idol. And that is so detrimental to the little children of Yasharal. Another idol, sports. All the little Hebrew boys want to play basketball or football. And why? Because those who have a father in the house typically, or who father is in their lives, they push them to play sports. Because that's all that they should aspire to ever be, is an athlete. That's it. You can't be anything else but an athlete. But who put that on us? Who put that idea in our head? Who put those men, those Hebrew men, on those sports teams on TV? Who put them there? For a specific reason. Everything is staged. I just want y'all to know that. Absolutely everything is staged. There's not a single thing that is reality. Okay? Money. Of course, that's an idol for many people, not just the children of Yasharal. Money is an idol. And growing up, people used to say, money is evil. But they would always take that scripture out of context and not read it correctly. The love of money is the root of all evil. So when money is your idol, it becomes evil, because idols are evil. Anything that goes against what Yahweh has said is evil. Jewelry. And here's the thing. Growing up, in my generation, I'm a millennial, okay? In my generation, all the Hebrew boys wanted to have the chains and the rings and the gold and silver teeth like the rappers that they saw on TV. They wanted all that stuff. Jewelry was such a huge hype when I was in middle and high school, especially high school. All the boys wanted to have the chains. They thought having all this jewelry would get all the women like they see the rappers in these music videos. So that's what they wanted to do. They idolized it. Idolize silver and gold. And how often does the Bible talk about idols being made of silver and gold? Careers. We do idolize our careers. One thing I will say, that in the households of Hebrew people, going to college is a huge thing, specifically because we haven't always had the opportunity to go to college. That was not always afforded to us. But the thing is, learning the education system and this beast system and the ways of the nations is not something that Yahweh wanted us to do. However, that is something that was idolized in our community. Going to college, getting a good paying career that pays a lot of money, and climbing up the quote unquote corporate ladder, working in corporate America, even though, oh, you're not going to be making the same as the white man, but you should still have a corporate career because you're going to make all this money, right? Especially those in Yashral who are immigrants from different countries. They come to America and they think that, oh, you should want to be a doctor. That's what you should aspire to be, idolizing being a doctor or a lawyer or any kind of high paying career. That is what is really pushed in our community, which what happens leads us into a lot of debt, chasing after these careers. And you have to have all these different degrees to even get a fraction of what our white counterparts are being paid, right? And then so you have a lot of Hebrew women who are foregoing marriage and children because they want to have a career. That is their idol. That is their main and only focus, is their career, right? Friendships. Friendships can be idolized. Growing up, I did not have a lot of friends. I personally didn't like having too many friends because I feel like having a lot of friends is a full time job. And I'm not going to say that I was a loner in middle school or high school, but it's just that having friends was not a priority. I had friends, but it was just not a priority. And there are people who are in this world who like they have to have the most amount of friends. That is their goal, is to have so many friends. But what does it say in Proverbs? I think it's either Proverbs or Psalms about having a bunch of friends. I'll put it on the screen because I don't remember exactly what the verse says, but I know it says something like you don't need a whole lot of friends. You shouldn't want to have a whole lot of friends. There's a lot of people in your business. There's a lot of people who you're giving your energy to and who you are receiving energy from. There's a lot of spirits going on. So friendships can definitely be idolized. Being outside in the streets. And what do I mean by that? Going to the club, wanting to go to parties, always going to brunch and mimosas, anything that involves being around a bunch of people and living in the world, that is idolized. There are people who live for the weekend because they can be out and wild out on the weekend. They worked all week, worked hard, so when it comes to the weekend, they want to kick their shoes off and literally have a good time, dancing on tables, taking their wigs off because they drunk. Being in the streets, a lot of people idolize that. They idolize being around other people, not to fellowship, not to have edifying conversations, but just to be out in the streets, especially to post on social media, which is my next point. Social media is definitely an idol. It was an idol for me. TikTok was an idol for me, especially when I surpassed 10,000 followers and then I surpassed 20,000 followers. I was like, yes, I was big and ahead. I was always posting just to keep the follower count going up. And I was thinking of things to post to make my following go even higher because I was getting paid at that point. And it became an idol. And then it became unfun. And then it became to a point where I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is not fun. This is not something that I can foresee doing long term, but also it's keeping me away from things that are important, like my son, right? Always be on my phone, always scrolling on TikTok, always, 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 while I'm supposed to be working, always scrolling on TikTok or on Instagram. And so, you know what? 2024, I got rid of all of my social media. And I have not looked back. I don't wish for a second that I was still on Instagram or Facebook or X or TikTok. I have no social media besides this here YouTube channel. And the only reason I have this is to spread the word of Yahweh. Anything that he tells me to post is what I'm posting on this channel. Because you know what it says in Ezekiel? When he tells you to say something and you don't say something, the people who you didn't speak to, who were not given a chance to repent, their blood is on your hands. I don't want nobody's blood on my hands. So we're gonna keep this here YouTube channel until yo it says, hey, be done. But social media was an idol, and it's an idol for so many people. And the thing is, when I was on social media, I would see how often people would post, and they would post such personal things. They would post their whole life on social media. Even on YouTube, I see people who do like the day in life videos, and it's just like that's all their content is. And they post so often, right? Posting everything because it's like that's all they have. That's their livelihood. That's how they get paid, right? And it's an idol because if you're making that your job, you have to be on there 24/7 in order to make money, unlike a regular 9 to 5 job. So yeah, social media, that is not only is it an idol, it's also an addiction. The high that you get from the likes, from the comments, and that's also something people idolize. The likes, the comments, the views, how much money they can make, the popularity, that hit of dopamine. Yes, absolutely. Social media. Oh, I feel like social media just needs to crash and burn altogether, but it's the powers of the enemy, so it's not going to until this world ends. Television, that is an idol. And I think that television has been an idol ever since TVs became a thing because people would just sit home and watch mindless TV. You know, after you get off work, turn the TV on, see what's on TV, you know. And I don't have cable, okay? I'll be honest with y'all, I don't have cable. If anything, I'm watching YouTube. Sometimes I'll watch, a show or two on Prime Video, but besides that, I'm just watching YouTube. That's it. But even that too can be an idol, especially if I'm watching it all day, every day. Yes, that can be an idol. If I'm putting it above the Father, right? I'm putting it above the Father. But television, people are addicted to television. People are addicted, especially to reality TV. I remember reality TV was an idol for me. Jersey Shore, absolutely. The Real World, absolutely. The Braxtons, absolutely. The Kardashians, absolutely. Listen, I was here for reality TV. And then it got to a point where I'm just like, this is trash. All I'm doing is watching people sin. All I'm doing is taking entertainment and watching people sin, which makes me a sinner, right? By association. I don't know if there's a thing, but it's going to be a thing, okay? Gossip. Gossip is an idol. It is. There are people who live for hearing gossip and those who live for sharing gossip. There's people who get together just for the sole purpose of gossiping. That is an idol. It's also a sin, right? It is also a sin to gossip. But gossip is an idol. It is. And that's all you want to do is just sit down and talk about other people and like you get a high off of that, like that makes you feel good inside, I guess. Yes, that is an idol. Alcohol is an idol, right? And that used to be an idol for me, especially when I was teaching. I would get off work, I would drink wine. Okay, I wasn't a hard liquor kind of girl. Wine. I would down a whole bottle of wine often, often, right? But people turn to alcohol because that's their idol. That's what helps them to get through life. That's what helps them to get through a situation. That's what helps them get through depression. That's what helps them to not have to think about. That's what helps them to numb the pain. And that goes along with the next one is weed, marijuana. That is an idol for a lot of people. Some people wake and bake. First thing they do when they get up in the morning, roll up a blunt and smoke it. That's an idol. If that's the first thing you're doing in the morning, that is an idol. If you are not worshiping Yahweh, thanking Him for waking you up in the morning, and praising Him for allowing you to see another day, anything you do other than that, that is an idol. It is. Food, that has been one of my idols. It has, I won't even hold you. Food has been an idol because it's been like a comfort thing. Um, and I know that food can be an idol for a lot of people. It can definitely be an idol for a lot of people. because food is something that I guess we can relate with other people. You know, food is always like the center of any kind of gathering, any kind of function, any kind of celebration, even a funeral. Food is what brings, I guess, quote unquote, brings people together. But food can definitely become an idol. Especially so like that show, My 600 Pound Life. Food is those people's idol. That is their idol, and you can clearly see that that is their idol because of how big they are and because of how much food they're eating. Yes, food is absolutely an idol. Cars, homes, clothes, name brand things, material things, and those are also idols. But I also want to talk about something that I think that a lot of people don't think about is like these organizations that people join, like sororities and fraternities and any other kind of quote unquote secret society organization. Those are idols. You're joining yourself to these spirits, you're joining yourself to these gods or goddesses, and you're making them idols. And then you have the paraphernalia that goes with these different organizations. Like with sororities and fraternities, they have paddles that have the Greek letters on them, they have the clothing, they have the just whatever else goes. I don't really know, y'all. I don't really know about Greek organizations. I just know about the things that I see, right? And it becomes an idol to them, being a part of Greek life. Even other organizations within universities that are not Greek affiliated, but any organization can be an idol. Whatever you join yourself to, whatever you're pledging to, can be an idol. Now, this list is not exhaustive because, I mean, literally anything can be an idol. But I just wanted to speak specifically about the idols of Yasharal because all of these idols that I mentioned were given to us, with the exception of food. Okay. With the exception of food, it's been given to us, right? But I would say, you know what? I take that back because with food, going back to the days of slavery and the colonization of our people, the food that we were given has become an idol and it has become a staple in households like chitlins, right? Hog maw. I don't know how you even pronounce that. Soul food is an idol. Yeah, soul food is an idol. The things that we eat culturally were given to us by our oppressors, and we still eat them today. And that's why we're so sick. It's why we're sick because of the food, the scraps that we were given. We were given the leftovers, what was left, right? That's why you out here eating rump roast, eating the butt of an animal, which is disgusting. Okay, it is disgusting, but that has become an idol too. Like y'all, there are so many idols. Like I could go on and on and on, but the thing is, all of the scriptures that mention not having idols, it's just I can't tell you even how many scriptures talk about having idols, but I definitely will point you to Isaiah and Ezekiel. When I was doing research on scriptures um, to go with this video, a lot of idol talk is spoken about in Isaiah and Ezekiel. And it is sprinkled amongst the other prophets, but those are the main ones, Isaiah and Ezekiel. I highly recommend going to read those. I do. And that's all I have for y'all.